Listen to some people talking about famous legends and stories. Choose the best answer, A, B, or C. Speaker 1.
One of my favourite legends is the story of Robin Hood, who is still a national hero in Britain. His story goes back to medieval times, and he remains important in popular culture because he stole from the rich and gave to the poor, and fought against evil, greedy rulers who wanted to keep everything for themselves. Unfortunately, there's no historical evidence that can tell us whether or not Robin Hood is based on a real person.
Speaker 2.
My favourite legend is the story of St. George, who killed a monster, a dragon, in order to save a beautiful princess from a terrible death. In reality, George was actually a soldier in the guard of the Diocletian, an emperor of Rome, and he probably lived in what is now Turkey, although many British people think he was English because he's England's national saint. There probably never was a dragon, of course. It is much more likely that George was just a very brave soldier who did a lot to help the Roman Empire.
Speaker 3.
I like the legend of the Fountain of Youth, which is supposed to be a legendary spring that restores the youth of anyone who drinks its water. It is, or rather was, believed to be in the US state of Florida, and in 1513, a Spanish explorer called Ponce de Leon actually travelled there to see if he could find it. He didn't find anything, of course. There are many older stories of magical waters. Some of them go back to the time of Alexander the Great, and the ancient Greeks believed there was a fountain of youth in Ethiopia because people from that country lived for so long.
Speaker 4.
I've always liked the story of Atlantis, a legendary island city. According to the Greek philosopher Plato, Atlantis used to lie somewhere in the Atlantic. It was a major naval power that sank into the ocean in a single day and night after it failed to take over Athens. It had already successfully conquered Western Europe and North Africa. The existence of Atlantis has been continuously discussed from classical to modern times and has inspired lots of books, comics and films.
Speaker 5.
I think most people will be familiar with my favorite legend. The legend of El Dorado originated in the 1530s in South America. A lot of people think that El Dorado was a place, but it was actually a person, a great leader who covered himself in gold dust. Early Spanish settlers in Colombia who heard stories about El Dorado also thought it was a place, a fabulous city which could make them very wealthy, and so they decided to look for it. The group set off to look for it, but their expedition was a disaster, although they were the first Europeans to explore the Amazon River all the way to its mouth. Many of them died, and they killed a lot of people.
Speaker 6.
Everybody knows the story of Noah's Ark. You know, everyone in the world is drowned in a flood, but one good man, Noah, is saved and builds a boat and loads it with his family and animals. There are a lot of similar stories in many cultures. There was an ancient Babylonian legend which probably inspired the story we know about the gods flooding the land because there were too many people. There was a Chinese one about the gods creating a flood for similar reasons, and the Romans and Greeks had a story about Neptune flooding the earth to punish evil humanity. They're all very similar.